This Saturday, Drake surprised everyone by dropping More Life, a quote-unquote playlist by Drake himself, which is essentially a brand new 21-track album with a couple of features from other artists. It's fabled by him to be an album he is remembered for, especially as something he describes as an emotion-evoking artist. But upon listening to this album, I can't help but feel it's the worst Drake album we've had in years. And that's coming from someone who really likes Drake as an artist. So let's get things straight. I don't really talk about music on this channel much, so I should clarify that I do really like Drake. Take Care is obviously his best body of work, and it's closely followed by Nothing Was the Same, and probably controversially, Views. Now, it's an unpopular opinion, but Views to me stood out as a really interesting album because it showed an evolution of Drake, showing him to be able to do more than just the generic heavy bass drum tracks that If You're Reading This Too Late was incredibly reliant on. Because you see, Drake has a beat. He likes this beat a lot, and it's pretty much used in every Drake song in some way or another, whether that be sped up, slowed down, or with a slight pause in between each and every beat. And I think it's really obvious, and If You're Reading This Is Too Late. But it was Views that sort of stepped away from that. Tracks like Keep the Family Close, Feel No Ways, With You, and the title track itself, Views, seem to step away from this heavy rap track theme and give some more creative beats. And I think about half of Views did that really, really well. Of course, there were songs like Hype and Still Here, which do stick to what I'm going to refer to now as old Drake style. But I was hoping for a continuation of this evolution from More Life. And from the pre-release tracks, I thought we were going to get that, especially from Fake Love being very reminiscent of One Dance, thankfully. It's not as overplayed. But More Life just seemed like a step back from where Drake was heading. And to some people that might be a good thing, but for me it just seems disappointing. The album starts with a great first-minute feature from Napalm, who really kicks off the album in a song that is very reminiscent of the title track from Views. But then it segues into another generic track, as if to show he's stepping away from that Drake we saw on Views. And that's not a good thing. More Life seems to very heavily lean on the UK grime scene as well, which besides a bit of a dabble in Stormzy, probably the uncoolest way to say light Stormzy, I'm pretty unfamiliar with, but I am aware of the artists that feature, and it was interesting to see Drake giving these guys a shot at a much more commercially available and accepted outlet. But literally every track with these guys on, especially gigs, just isn't special. When I heard grime was going to be a bigger part of this, I expected to hear Drake's take on grime. But what I got was just a grime artist reading a Drake verse, and especially one that's not even that great. I mean, Skepta's track on the album is what I expected the majority of this album to be like, and I've been down for that. But in the end, it just kind of left me with one really good grime track, which Drake doesn't even feature on, so the grime side really did let me down. It's nearly impossible to distinguish between some of the songs as well. Lose You, Ice Melts, Can't Have Everything, and Blame. Incredibly dull, uninteresting songs that they just kind of become forgettable in Drake's discography, much alike If You're Reading This It's Too Late. I mean, lyrically this album's relatively on point, with some really good verses by Drake, especially on the tracks Free Smoke and Glow, but it doesn't change the relatively forgettable sound that this album really emphasises. But More Life does have some gems on it. Glow, Mad About Rhythm, Since Way Back, 4422, Get It Together are all clear standouts and a hark back to View's relatively different style. But I think the best track on this album sums this album up perfectly. Passion Fruit. Now, Passion Fruit is obviously, and pretty much already is, the most standout popular track on this album. It's very much got that beat which pop music is seeming to love at the moment, but its first minute is so unnecessary that it tarnishes probably what would have been Drake's best track since Worst Behaviour. It's a perfect metaphor for the album though. I had to sit through so much average, unnecessary content just to get to a couple of tracks, and that's a shame, to be honest. More Life was an opportunity for Drake to reshape who he was as an artist for a third time, but instead he chooses to take a step backwards, and while this is not necessarily a bad album, it's definitely a disappointing one, and it's Drake's most underwhelming album in years. More Life gets 2.5 out of 5.